This conference will now be recorded.
So sometimes what happens is in the practice tenant, when it becomes overloaded, the workday goes for like all the, refreshing of the data, uh, pulling out all the unnecessary things in the tenant and then setting it up like as the way it is fresh. So actually it will be good for you once that is done, because then it will be all a fresh tenant and no repetition in terms of that. So I'm just hoping it gets sorted out pretty soon and you can do the practice. Right. So can you all see my screen?
Yeah, Arun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So uh, I would have hoped that since you would have got the tenant, you would have completed this exercise. So what should we do? Should we like once you get the tenant, should you practice and then let me know for any questions and I move further, or how do you want it now for today?
Mm, What do you suggest, Arun?
I mean, I would like to. It would be great if you all can practice and work on it. That would be great, because then it will be like a complete HCM overview for whatever a functional consultant knows in Workday system. This is what he knows as a HCM consultant. If I talk about as a requirement when it comes in the companies, this is all what you need to know as a part of tenant setup in terms of HCM functionality. So if you
So,
want,
what should we do? What we can do? We can skip today's session then now.
no, what I feel is like, okay, I have things where I can make you show things and everything, but then I seriously want you guys to practice, because if I build it today, then I have to build a whole new practice thing for you, right? Because once that is done from my side, it will be like done for every one of you. What I'll do is like today I'll start with the custom report. I'll give you a quick
Hmm.
overview on what is the custom report, and by the time tenant will be available, you can practice it. But today I'll give
Hmm.
you the overview on what is the custom report, why it is built, how it is built, because that is like the prerequisite for all the functional as well as for integration guys. Reason being that uh, while as a functional consultant also you have to create the custom report, so the requirement would be somewhat like this. I mean, as a functional consultant, the requirement would be somewhat like this, that since functional consultants directly interact with the end users of the company, right? That is the HRs, the managers, all those people. So typically, this custom report is mandatory for functional guys in terms of like to set it up for end users, and for technical guys, the customer reports are done to fetch the data for integrations. So that is why custom report is one such thing which is always kind of like required field whenever you are moving into the Workday section. So if I talk about like custom report, so in Workday
Arun,
system, yeah.
uh, before you start, I was thinking, is it possible for us to, for some time, do it like 1 day class, then 1 day off, so that uh, the things didn't get piled up, and we can practice it accordingly on the next day, so that once we are back, uh, everything prior which we have covered is also done at our end, because I feel it's technical, because I am not a technical person, and something new in technical will be starting, and a lot of things are still pending from I don't know about others from my end as well. So is it possible for you, or I mean, if it's feasible for others as
I
well?
mean,
It's
the
just a suggestion.
only problem which I feel in this sense is like it will extend the time duration to complete the training, right? That is the only worry that will happen if we like do this thing. What we can do is like we can go a bit slow for some time, so that it's not like we run fast and cover everything on a day on day basis. We run a bit slow, so that what whenever you have time to practice it on the same day, the questions or anything like that, so that even there is no skipping in terms of that kind of anything like that. That's what my suggestion is, but I leave it on you all guys to think on it and like decide.
Arun, are you there?
Yeah, Bala.
Yeah, I mean, my view is you just proceed, man, because otherwise it will take, as I said, it will take 2 days to complete the course. You got it right, what I said?
No, Bala, your voice was not clear. Can you just be like,
No, what I'm saying is, I think you should continue rather than holding.
yeah. Even I feel because it will take, then the time duration will increase and it will be like only like 45 hours of training means 90 hours of training. It will become like that. But yeah, what we can do is like if the things which we have like I mean the things which are piled up for some duration, like for next 3 4 days we can go a bit slow. uh, I mean take our time and understanding and giving you time to practice and do everything parallelly. I'll not stop taking the sessions. I'll keep making you learn, because now what is happening is that another 10 12 days, if I say about like another 10 classes, and you'll be aware, well aware of the integrations, you'll be well aware of the custom reports, and then only the advanced functional setup will be pending, which is like on day class it will be covered, because it's all like straightforward methods and processes, that how this is done, how this is done, how this is done. So now we have covered a majority of Workday, and so since we have covered the full HCM, and now within next 10 to 15 days, we will complete the integration side as well. So then, so we can take in this 10 15 days, we can take our time to go a bit slow, to give you time to practice and everything. And then gradually, like when everything is on the same page, we can increase our speed. Uh, do you think, guys, this will work, or any suggestion in that?
It will work, man. Proceed.
Yeah, we can always try. Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, skipping a class on a day-on-day basis might become, I mean, trickier for every one of us. So
Yeah, and we
today,
might lose momentum also.
exactly, that will happen. Right now, it's more like on the full swing. The day-on-day basis, we are connecting, resolving things, and getting everything done. So I feel that's the best way. But yeah, we'll go a bit slow to let you try out things and like finalize everything. So today I'll not be like putting much emphasis or like putting everything I'll teach you about custom report. That's not like that. But today I'll give you the complete overview of what is custom report. And primarily what I'll do is like I'll take real life scenarios first to understand that how we talk to the customers and the requirement for these custom reports. Once we'll have those, then we'll move forward and talk about building it into the tenant. Fine. So today will be more of a theoretical class to understand the concept behind custom report, how we talk to the customers, how we gather the data, how we fill in our design document on that, how do we identify which type of report it would be, how we will build it, if there is direct field or calculated fields. So we go with a theoretical about custom report, and then we'll move into the practice part, right? So custom report is nothing. It's just like a way to, you can say, fetch the data from the Workday system. It's more like that. So typically,
I'm not able to see your screen.
is it? Okay, give me a second. Can you see the Excel now, Bala?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So typically custom reports are the mechanism or are kind of like a reporting technology in Workday system, which allows you to fetch the data from Workday tenant and show it in a tabular format. That is, wherever you create a custom report and run it, it will show in the same tabular format as we see in the databases, that is row and column. So the heading part, so it will be like this, that you will have a report name, then you will have the like data source, just the way we do it in database. Then we have the business object we'll be choosing on, and then it will have like the row data, that is row one will contain first employee, row two will contain second employee, all those things. And here you'll be like the headings like first name, last name, kind of that. So that is how a custom report looks like once you build a custom report. This is the kind of syntax you can see will come in the custom report file. So how and why we go for the custom report? So there are typically two types of custom report in Workday system. One is the simple report and another is the advanced custom report. Now, what is the difference between simple and advanced? So simple is nothing but just like you create a straight away custom report. Like suppose you are the functional consultant and the HR wanted like, hey, I want a custom report which will give me the first name, the last name, the contact number, the email ID, the address, and like his current position, his employee ID, kind of that. If that is the simple requirement, if it is to be configured in the Workday system, where you don't have to use any. So I'll talk about the calculated fields, but I'm just taking one example here where you don't have to create any calculated fields, where you don't have to worry about any logic you have to put in to extract the data if it is straightforward fields. So if you remember, while we were building our compensation grades, there was a field which I used for the management level, right? If you all guys remember. So the eligibility rule on which I was building was management level, right?
There are 7 levels. That
Yeah, there were 7 levels,
okay.
right? So the management level, that particular column name was a particular Workday delivered field. That field was like created by Workday and you can directly choose it. So if in your custom report, if you are using direct Workday delivered fields and not applying any logic and directly using it in your custom report, that report is called the simple report. That is, no logic is required, no calculated fields are required, no other like functionalities are required. Just you create a straightforward custom report for the HRs, like to just extract the personal information of all the employees. So all those reports are covered under the simple custom reports. Why advanced then? So advanced custom reports are a bit different from simple terms. Why? It's because they are, you can say, web service enabled. Now, what is meant by web service enabled? If you guys remember, on like initially when I was telling about the theoretical part about integrations and everything, I told you in Workday everything which comes as an output, either a report or any core connector, anything kind of that, is in the format of XML, right? So whenever there is a custom report, if it has to be provided as an input to your integrations, whether it is EIB, whether it is core connector, whether it is a studio, any report, if it is to be the input of these integrations, it has to be web service enabled. And what does mean that the web service, that the report is web service enabled? It means the output will not, the report output which I was talking about, like in the tabular format, it will not be in the tabular format, it will be in the XML format. That is, for each row there will be a XML header and XML closing tag, and that way all the data will be processed in terms of XML reporting and things. So that is the main thing, that whenever you are creating a custom report, and that report has to be inputted to any of the integrations, like say EIB, say document transformation, say studio, anywhere. If any of these integrations are taking this report as an input, then it has to be web service enabled so that the output can be extracted in the form of XML. So that is why there are two types of custom report we build into the system. One is the simple custom report and one is the advanced custom report. Is there any question, any sort of like things you want to, I mean, ask?
XML is basically some kind of coding, is it?
No, so XML is like, I'll show you how does it look like. So I'll create a simple XML for you. So let's say, take an example that this is the same report which we have created. Let's say the report name is personal record. The data source, I'll tell you what all these things. Right now I'm just putting in the data source which I will be using. Business object, it would be worker. I'll tell you these things in details. Now suppose we have this first name and the last name, and it will show it like this. That is, say Arun, last name is Shukla. Then we have like Rahul, maybe like Dravid, kind of that. right? So this is how your custom report output will look like in the tenant once you run the report. That it will have a header and then it will have records for each row. So if you see, these are the columns which is like the fields we have selected. That is, this particular thing will tell you what are the fields you have selected in the custom report, whether it is first name, last name, email, mobile number, contact number, and then below that all the records will be displayed. Now that is the tabular form. Whenever you create a simple report, this is how the output will look like in the Workday system. But if you change it to advanced and if you make it web service enabled, how the data will look like in the output file of the custom report will be something like this. That it will have first, I'll explain what is this. It will have something like this: the starting tag, so what can you identify using this particular syntax which I have written? And somebody like give a assumption as well, like what you understand from this particular report.
Can I try? This is Bala.
Yeah, sure, Bala.
Yeah, so the road entity is mimicking the road, and the first name, last name is mimicking the
Bala,
corresponding
your
one.
voice is bit low. I'm not able to hear.
I guess Bala is not using headphones directly taking call without headphone. That's why the surrounding sounds is more problem.
Bala, you there? So in the meanwhile, like Bala is joining in, anybody who can give it a shot.
The report data is a source, report entry is a row, and first name, last name is a column. So everywhere, every row has a start and close tag. Every column has a start and close tag. And the main tag is closed down report data. So it will
Okay.
be XML output. We have to convert in our own format while representing the report, right?
Oh, okay, fine. So now, I mean, that's the nice understanding. But now I'll elaborate it in a more sense. So what happens is like it has nothing to do with the like data source or kind of that. So what happens is now I'll tell you a bit about the XML format. So how the XML format is look like, because in your integrations while you'll be creating those integrations kind of thing, you might have to write the XML codes as well. So for XML format, so the first thing is like the root. That is the first
Mm.
thing under which all the things will be covered, right? This is the main tag. So here, if you see, the report data can be called as the root because that is
Root.
only one time opening and one time closing, right? And all the
Okay.
records are in between the root only, right? So if you see that
Right.
if I delete this particular report data section, it will delete everything because everything is inside it only. Is
100%.
that making sense? So now that is what is called the root. So whenever there is an XML format, whenever it is there, any whether it is in Workday or anywhere, it will always be starting with the root itself. So your report data here in our case, it will be the root, and in that we'll have the row data. Hello.
Arun, you able to hear? Arun, you able to hear me clearly now?
Yeah. Now Bala, it's clear.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I was just explaining this, like what I have done. So now, before me like explaining this into further details, let me just tell you a quick introduction about the XML format. So XML format, like it's always be, whether it is in Workday or it is in any real life scenario, XML format will always be that there will be only one header which will be called the root. Inside that, all the data will be contained. So in our case, if you see this example, that is WD report data, it's only coming once and closing only once. So that means if you can relate it with the real life scenario, you can take it as the main gate of the house, right? So there is only one main gate, it is there whenever you go to a house, there will be only one main gate. So you can take this report data as the main gate of the entry of the house. And that is what is called the root in terms of XML terms, right? So in our case, the report data is called the root. And inside report data, all the columns, if you see like the first name, last name, and everything, will be repeating as many number of times as many times the record is there in the output in the report section. So here in our case, say, let's say take an example that there are 2 employees. That is why you see there are 2 report entry section in our XML, right? Is that making sense?
Yes, sir.
Right? So now that is what the XML format is, that you will have a root and then you will have the row content. Row content is like for every row, there will be a row section enclosed. So that will like tell you, okay, this is my first row. That is the first report entry will be the first row. The second report entry will be the second row. And inside that now, so now you can assume, so I related with a real life house scenario because that is more easy to understand. So it's more like that, suppose you have a main gate, that iron gate typically which happens in outside the gate, that is your report data. And then you can have multiple entries in your house, right? That is, say maybe there are 3 rooms which you have the direct entry, that you can treat as the rows of each particular section, right? Now inside the report entry, you will talk about the columns we have used or the fields you have used in our custom report. That will be inside the row section, that is inside the report entry. So now we have 2 things. First is the first name and second is the last name. So those will be 2 tags which will be opened and closed, and in between the data will be presented. Is that all making sense, making it understandable to you guys? Any
Yes, sir.
question in this? Anybody, any question?
No, I am okay with this.
Okay. So now, this is how the Workday, custom report output looks like. We will see on the tenant how this is built, how this is configured. But before that, I wanted to make it more clear for you guys to understand the
Arun,
XML format. Yeah.
what is the main purpose of these two reports? Uh, I mean, must be some different purpose for the advanced one, and for the simple one must be a different one.
Yeah, the basic purpose for simple and the advanced is pretty simple, that simple cannot be the input source for any of these integrations. So you can only create those reports in the tenant, and then you cannot extract those data and give it to your your any of those integrations input. That is, it will not be treated as an input, and you will not be able to extract the data, process the data, create a file, send it to the vendors. Only advanced reporting gives you this feature, that those report output will come into the input for those integrations, and then you can process it like using XSLTs. You can create your sample files or output files and send it to the
Can you
vendors.
simplify it, what you said? Just, I mean, can you simplify it a bit? Uh,
Uh,
if it
okay,
was,
okay. Let's say take an example that HR, you have the HR in the organization, right? So for
yeah.
HR, you don't need to send the files. HR can directly log into the Workday system, run the report, and see the data. Correct? You don't, because I mean, whenever you talk about a third-party vendor who is not directly associated with Workday, for them you need to send the file to them, right? Either by any ways, but you need to send the data to them, right? Let's say take an example that you have to send your accounting information to bank. that is each employee's per month salary, if you have to send it to the bank, what will happen? Bank cannot enter into your Workday system and see the report, right? They cannot. So what will happen is we will create a report. We will extract the data from the report and create a, like you can say, text file or CSV file or Excel file, whatever the way bank needs. We will create those file in the same format and send it to the bank, right? This is how integration works, like that the Workday system is interacting with the third party vendors. How? First, by creating the reports in the system, then getting that report XML output. I mean the report not in the tabular format but in the XML format. Then you create your integrations, use the XSLT to create to get those report input as like for them, process the XSLT and create the output file as and how it is required by the bank, and you are sending it to them. That is why you need advanced reporting, just to extract the data from the system in XML format and process it to generate the output files. Is that
Okay,
making
thanks.
sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So the pretty simple, straightforward is when yes.
At any point, do we need to manipulate this XML file? Because this would be ordinarily generated by the Workday system.
Yeah.
So
So
we don't need to make any changes on the XML form.
no. So what happens is like sometimes what happens is sorry. Sunil?
No, no, go ahead. It was echoing.
Okay, so what I'm saying is like sometimes what happens is that this is only the XML output, right? No other third party vendor would have the access to I mean would have the technology, or maybe like their backend code doesn't accept the XML as input file or the output file to them. What they need is that send a Excel file or a CSV file which will be processed in their system. So using this XML, so how the integration works? Now create a report, okay? Then this report will be generated as an XML output. Then this will be the input for your any of these integrations. So maybe for EIB, maybe for Studio, anything kind of that. This will be the input for that. Then using XSLT, that is one coding language you need to only learn in Workday Studio, or sorry, in Workday, that is XSLT. So using the XSLT, you can create an output file, which can be either text, either CSV, or the XML format. I mean, all three ways. So this is how the integration flow is all about, right? That is to create a custom report which is advanced type. The XML output which output will be generated. That will be the input for any of your integrations. And then you can write the XSLT code to create the output file in any of the format which is specified by the vendors. You will only use this data. You will not change the XML
The
formatting.
output format could be PDF also, right?
It can be PDF also. I mean, it can be anything the way the vendor wants. But
Okay.
typically, I
For
mean,
that,
in Workday situations, typically it's always like a CSV or a text file.
right. But the output format, you said XML again, right? So let me ask this question. The report will always produce the report in XML format. It report will
Correct.
not produce in any other format, right?
No, yeah.
So, okay. So you need to use some kind of a conversion, in this case a VIB or Studio or using XSLT language, then you create again as an XML.
So what happens, like why I wrote XML is because sometimes so now if you see here, for Workday, the syntax is this, that the root will always be known as
Okay.
report
Okay.
data. This will always
Change
be
the
known as
root name. Okay.
right? Yeah. So that is why sometimes you need it to based on the vendor specifications.
Okay.
So Arun, my question is, all these web services is predefined, or we can create web service as per our
No,
requirement?
it is predefined. It is all public APIs which are being predefined by Workday system.
So if you want any calculation to be done while taking output, how we can do that? For example, see, we have a in salary called basic and HRA, and I want
Yeah.
summation of both basic and HRA in one column. So
Yeah.
is it possible in this web service report, advanced report?
So yeah. So one thing which I was using a name, it was called the calculated fields. So we'll learn
Yeah.
about it. In this, we can do all the mathematical calculations, all the formatting, all the syntaxing, everything can be done here. So while we'll see
Okay.
about this, you will get to know that how to do summation, how to do aggregation, how to like substring, how to concatenate, everything. Everything will be
Yeah,
covered under the
but
calculation
Arun, his question is, I think, is different, Arun. What he was asking is, can you create a new web service kind of thing, right?
No.
Yeah.
So
Am I right?
yeah. So
You can create a new report. That new report would give you a new service.
Bala, there are two things. Okay, before let me explain. So report is not a web service. Okay, there are two ways in Workday. There are two ways to fetch records. So in Workday, there are two ways to fetch records from the system. One is through custom report. Okay, and the second is through web services. So those are two ways by which you can get the records from the Workday system. So custom report, it is not anything which is called like you are using any web service. Why I use the term that web service enabled, so that this thing can be come out in the XML format. That's it, right? Not to make it any web service thing kind of, but only to get the output in the web service for sorry XML format. That's why we make it as a web service enabled custom reports. But when we talk about web services, so there are public APIs which are already being defined by Workday. That is, only these public APIs are available by which you can extract the data from the Workday system. So there are around like
What is API?
sorry,
What is APIs?
API full form is like, I think, application process something
application
like
programming interface.
programming interface.
Application programming interface. Yeah. Okay.
So it's more like they are also in the XML format only. And then so using this web service, you can get this. So web services are two options. One is the get and one is the put. That is,
Post.
if in Workday terms, it's called the put. So
Okay.
what happens is, like, get means that when you extract the data from Workday system, right? And put is like when you are putting the data into the Workday system. So all these web services will be kind of like either a get or a put type. You specifically tell that, okay, I want to get the data or I want to put the data. By this way, you can have these use these public APIs. Again, you cannot create your new web services. You can only use the existing APIs which are there in the system.
So the web services that you are talking about, right? That will be created using the EIB. Am I right?
No, these web services were typically being used using the studio.
Using the studio, you create them.
Yeah.
What do you do with the EIB?
So EIBs are more like that you take this report as an input to the EIB, and then in EIB you can upload your XSLT. So EIB is like two ways. First, you get the data from custom report. Second, you upload the XSLT as like the part of their custom transformation, and then EIB will generate the output file. That is, it's an engine, you can say, which will run the XSLT on the XML and create the output file.
So EIB cannot access the web service.
EIB can access web service as well. So that once we'll be into the EIB section, I'll be able to explain you better how, because I don't want to match so many things here. That's why I was just holding it for like how EIB use custom report or EIB use web services, how Studio reports custom report and Studio use web services. That
I
I'll
try
cover.
I try to understand, like, which tool you should use it for what purpose, right?
I'll tell you.
Want to understand.
I will tell you, Bala. So there is also, again, there's one thing. There is a Workday predefined, you can say, like a process criteria to choose which integration, which format you have to work on. So for EIB, Workday has a set of criteria when to use custom report or when to use web service. Similarly, for Studio, when to do what. Everything for Workday has a predefined criteria. And if you remember when I was telling you that the custom report, any integration, Workday is always involved with the DA audit, right? That is, they audit whether you have used the best optimized way, whether you use the predefined criteria which Workday has specified. And if they find that there is a mismatch in those things, they return the integration. So that is why all these things will be covering once we'll into that stage of integrations.
Okay.
Right? But
So
right
Arun, we
now,
would need to learn XSLT.
So XSLT schema, I mean, it's like a pretty straightforward, very simple coding. There's nothing much like kind of like you say Java or C++. It's nothing like that. There are again like predefined templates are there in XSLT. Use it and paste it. That's it. So even for functional consultants, they know a bit of XSLT. And for like more if you grow as a technical consultant, then there will be more functions, more things which can be added into the XSLT. But a quick overview of XSLT is enough for you to handle the simple integrations and simple AI.
Seema, this is Bala Seema. If you do not know XSLT, try to search for tutorial point XSLT. It is a very small description about XSLT. It is very useful. Tutorial point.
Tutorial point. Okay, that's a website.
It's a website, and just Google it like
Okay.
tutorial point. And once you go there, you can search for
Mm-hmm.
XSLT, and they will give you a brief description about XSLT and frequently used commands like if, while, loop, and all those things. Very easy to follow, as Arun said.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
So Bala, in
Uh,
that, do we have the compiler as well? I mean, can people run the
What
code?
is that?
I mean,
Yeah,
can
you can
people
run the code. Yes, you
right?
have that website is really nice, man. You have a whiteboard and you have a compiler, and you can write a small XML and try to run through the XSLT and see output and everything. You can do that.
Yeah, because there's one more site which I can tell you. It's called the W3 Schools. So that is
Double three
again
schools are the good. Yeah, yeah.
similar to what Bala has like mentioned. So these two sites you can use to practice all your XML and XSLT things. So somebody was asking a question.
Arun, I have a question in this actually. In terms of bandwidth, if we take a data in XML format, the data will be
Yeah.
very huge. So, is planning of Workday to convert this XML to a JSON format because the tag is reduced? There will be only one tag to assign the value. So that will be a very uh,
Not till
reduce
now.
reduce reduce your bandwidth.
Not till now,
Lightweight.
Anand. Not till now, because till now they are always prescribing it in the same. And secondly, like I'm not sure what they would be working internally on that sense, but till now it is
Mhm.
always on the external part.
Actually, web service is very old now. WCF, the other technologies are there in the market, which is very secure and Windows, Microsoft is pressure mainly wanted to use that services.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, see, that's not something which is in our hands,
Okay,
right?
okay.
That is totally being governed by Workday things.
So
It's a
you
REST
guys are
API, right?
not giving any suggestions.
Everything is REST API, right?
Yeah, there are REST and the SOAP APIs both in Workday system.
What is
So
that?
all
REST
the
and SOAP, both.
SOAP UI. So that is the
So
kind
you
of
have
like, sorry,
you have SOAP as well as REST, both of them.
REST. Both of them are available.
Okay.
and the input and output both are the XML format, I think so. Right, Arun?
Where? Anand?
To calling the web services.
It's always the XML only.
Okay.
So okay. So I think we just
Uh,
got lost in between. Okay, so I'll just continue from where I left. So this is the format. We will talk about it. We'll see about it. But till now, is that clear how the custom report is like, how the output looks like, and how is it processed? Is that making sense? How the XML looks like in the custom report? Now, there is
Yes.
one more thing which I wanted to highlight, and that is called the XPath. I mean, if anyone of you would have used XSLT or kind of that, you would be knowing the term called XPath. So XPath is nothing, but it's like, suppose I have to reach the last name from the XML, how will I reach it? So it's just like to tell the compiler of Workday, this field, you can reach the last name through this path only. That is what the X path means. It's just like whenever you tell somebody the route that, okay, go this, take a right, take a left, and reach there. That's exactly what the X path is. So for each field, there will be an X path associated. Now, if you see, and if like somebody can do a wild guess, that if I have to extract the first name, what will I do? and you can relate it with the live example which I mentioned about the main gates and doors. Can you just think of like how can I reach the first name?
What's the question? Say again your question.
So I'm saying that XPath means that you have to tell the compiler where the first name resides. I mean, where they will find the first name in the XML. So can somebody tell me the XPath or like a wild guess that what can be the syntax to reach the first name in this XML?
Report underscore data slash report
Slash
underscore
report
entry slash
entry
first name.
slash first name. Yes.
Exactly. That is what it is called. Called the XPath. So you just have to tell like what will be the total XPath for to reach the first name in the system, right? Is that making sense? How we got into it,
Yeah, Arun.
right? So I'll just make it a bit
Arun,
complicated. Yeah.
can you please tell me once again?
Sure, I'll do. So okay, so I'll make the complications a bit later. So what happens is like suppose if you see here that I have to reach the first name, right? What will happen? I'll start from the top. That from the top I'll see okay which tag is opening and which tag is closing so to reach there. So I'll be seeing okay WD report data tag is open. So is it closing nearby? No. So my first X path would start from WD report data, right? Is that making sense till now?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whenever you are writing the XPath, you need to see how many tags are opened to reach that particular path. So right now the first tag which is opened is WD report data. So I'll start with the WD report data. Then slash, it's more like we use in DOS, right? That slash this, then slash this, then slash this, the whole path for a folder. We do it in the command prompt in our earlier days. That is what is XPath in XML as well. So now the report data is open. We are inside the report data now. Now we can see there is another tag which is opening called report entry, but it is not closing before the first name, right? So we will put another entry tag, another tag which is open, that is called the report entry. So now we entered here report data, then we entered here report entry. Now we are inside the report entry and we can tell that okay, this is that first name which we have to extract, right?
Yeah.
Now I'll make it a bit complicated and see whether you can give a shot in that as well.
Arun, before you go to the second this example, can you let me know what is an XPath of the first name of the second record?
Yeah, I'll tell that. I'll tell that. Bala. Just give me a second. So before while I'm writing this, I take up your question, Bala. So how many of I hope many of you would be remembering the concept of array, right?
Hmm.
You all would be knowing a bit of array, correct? So
Yes.
now think of it that in array, when you have to access the first element of the array, what you used to do,
Zero.
Zero.
right? Second is A1, third is A2, right? Similarly,
So
there's the
it's
same way. It's the same way that you can fetch. So if I just put in here the first name 1, so it will fetch the first name. If I put first name 2, it will put the second first name. That is, it will print the Rahul for this.
Oh, it is one based. It is not zero based, right?
No, it is not zero based, it is one based. Sometimes what happens is again, it depends on the compilers you are using for XML and XSLT, but typically it starts from 1 and 2 only from XML and XPath perspective.
Okay.
Okay, now there will be another thing which we'll be covering while we'll be running on the XSLT part, and then I mean, as we have discussed about it, let's just go a step more. So there was one more way you were able to extract the data in array. It was like writing the for loop, correct?
Yes.
If you remember that what we used to do
What is it?
for loop,
Loop.
I is
Yeah,
equal to
okay.
0, I less than
it was
total
something like
reports, I plus
this.
plus
Plus plus
plus plus.
plus plus.
Right? It was something like this, and then we were like, I'm just writing a C++ code, and then it was something like this.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
right. So that is how we were
Hello?
able to print all the records. Correct. Similarly, in
Yes.
XSLT, we have similar concept which is called the for each. That's the way we do for loop in C++. We have a concept called for each. And then you don't need to put a syntax here. It will run every time for report entry. So suppose there are two report entry section, we can mention that for each WD report entry, let's say like this. I'll explain it in bit detail, so don't worry if you're not getting it. I'll go for like in a better understanding. So whenever we say like for each report entry, this is the XPath. So it will print two times. First it will print Arun, and then it will print Rahul, just like the way it does the for loop in C++. That's exactly the way it does.
Arun, actually, Vivek having some issue. He is not able to hear you.
Uh, uh, Everybody else is able to hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine for us.
Yeah,
Even
even
for
I'm
me.
good.
But how can I get it resolved for Vivek?
I think he has to restart it again, probably.
Maybe
So
he
like,
just needs to log off and log in again.
yeah.
Yes.
So he'll come back and I'll explain
So,
it. Bit. So yeah. So
Arun, when you
yeah.
talk, Arun, so there's a for loop that you have entered, right? So here we don't need to worry about how many elements are there. The system itself will calculate what is the boundary, right?
Exactly.
Mm.
So we are just telling that whenever you find a report entry, execute this loop. Right. So that is how we will learn this. But just
Even if it has got only one element,
it
still the
will only
for
work
each.
for one. It will only work
Okay.
for one. Right. We will use it. We'll explain this in detail, but this is just to give you an overview. Right. So don't worry about it right now. Now I have made this like a part a bit complex. So suppose
Hello?
yeah, Vivek, am I audible? Are we audible?
Yes, yes, yes. Did I
Yeah.
miss something?
Not much, but yeah, I'll cover that. If you have missed anything, I'll cover that, because anyways we'll be covering it just to answer a question which is asked by Bala. But anyways, we'll cover it in a longer. So now we're just talking about the XPath itself right now. So now let's say that we have to write the XPath for title and for supervisor name. So for these two, can somebody tell me the XPath? So first for title and then for supervisor name.
Same way,
So need to
report data, then report entry,
Okay.
then
I'm
report,
just putting it a short
then
form.
no.
then title.
Okay.
So you will get the title from this.
No, actually, report entry is multiples, right?
So right now we
So
are
you need
not
to
using any. Right now we are not using any for loop, Bala. Just assume that there is only one record for which we are talking about.
Okay.
So
Okay.
don't worry
Then what
about
you said is
for,
right.
don't worry about that. Right?
Okay.
Then title, yeah.
Title.
This will give a title.
Yeah. And for supervisor, can somebody else take up this?
What about you, Arun?
Instead of title, use supervisor. That's all.
Sure, I'll take this out then. So,
So
I'll do the same thing. That is we'll start with the. So every time whenever you have to access a things, you always have to go back, right? It's not that I mean, just for this example, since we are not elaborating using any of the for each or anything kind of that. So whenever I'm talking specifically, it's more like we have to start from the beginning. So in our case, let's say the supervisor ID or supervisor name. So we'll again start with report data, then we'll go to report entry, then it is inside. So we will not consider first name and last name because these tags are closing already,
Closed.
right? So
Yeah.
that is what I
Yes.
wanted to tell you, that you don't need to worry about the tags which have closed before that particular position. You only need to worry about the tags which are open. So in our case, the report data entry tag is open, report data tag is open, report entry tag is open, position tag is open. Again, we'll skip title because the title is closed, right?
Yes.
Then we will
We
see,
use
okay, supervisor tag is open. So we'll write the supervisor tag. And then we will write, okay, the supervisor name, this is here.
So, Arun, question, Arun, right? Let's talk about the title now, right?
Yeah,
So you said the path is RD/RE/position/title. Okay.
yeah.
Suppose if I skip that position, if I say that RD and RE/title, still the system is able to go to title, right?
No, no.
no.
What will happen is how the system compiler will work. It will only see the tags which are directly under the report entry. So it will search first name, it will search last name, it will search position, and then it will close report entry.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
It's more like
Arun, what
you
does
have,
compiler do?
what
So
is
it's not as
compiler?
smart as it is not as smart as we are, right?
No, it will only follow. So it's more like that. Suppose you will not open the gate, how will go? How will you go inside the room,
I understand. I understand that. Right.
right? So a compiler, what compiler does it? It will execute this XPath and will print the value. So in our case, it will print Deepak. Once we'll run this, once the processing of this compiler will process all those things, it will only print Deepak. It will not print this. It will only print the value in that output file.
Okay. I thought it's generally a string is going to be searched. I thought that. So it's kind of an object navigation happening. Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
Understood, man.
Exactly. Right. So so that is like more of the custom report things, like how does it look like, the X paths, and how do you write the X path. So that will all be the part of the integrations, whether it is AIB, whether it is Studio, everywhere. This will be your key concept, that is the X paths. So whenever there is a wrong X path, you'll not be able to write the values. And then we'll also learn about XSLT, how to do that, how to process. I'll also share you the sample XSLT. So the best part with IT line, I mean the engineering line I have seen, is the control C and control V. So there is no need to learn any syntax. There is no need to put any logic. Everything is present in XSLT. Everything is present in Google. Don't worry about the syntax. Don't remember about the syntax. Everything can be driven by control C and control V. So I'll share the sample XMLs. I'll share the sample XSLTs with you all so that you can take it as your record. Just go through it, keep on practicing, and you'll be remembering everything kind of that. So no need to worry about whether you know full-fledged XSLT or not, because it's all template based and you just copy and paste it. So I mean, I created one XSLT during my training exam. I mean, that's the same XSLT I've been using for past 6 years. Just making changes, and creating it for that.
Arun, it's just everything is totally new for me in terms of technicality. I have never been a technical person, so I'm a bit concerned about this thing because there's a lot of words which I don't know. So I just request you to try to no, though it was a good session, but going further, if you can just also tell that in a layman's language as well, so it will be helpful
Sure,
for me
sure, sure,
because
sure,
yeah,
sure. I'll take care of that. So I mean,
because today's session was only Bala and and the sorry, I forgot the name. So basically, these two, Arun and Bala and the other guy. Sorry, I forgot the name. So
Anand.
these were the only champs. Yeah, yeah, Anand. Sorry, sorry. Yeah, so these were the only
Vivek,
champs. So
Vivek, I have one suggestion for you. Just
yeah,
learn XML. Very important. Actually, is required for implementing a Workday. For getting custom data output from Workday, we require XML understanding. So
yeah.
in Google, you search for XML training, and you will get very good output in that.
Okay, sure, sure. I'll do that.
but anyways, I mean,
And
anyways, Vivek,
I
like
told
why?
you, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you can
go
use
to
those
the
sites.
go to the
Yeah,
tutorial point, man. There you see the basic XML and everything. So it's just 2 hours. If you're guys able to spend it, you'll know what is going on this.
Sure, Vala, I'll
And
surely do that. Thank you.
and second, just to add on to it, like since this is all a theoretical class today, so I know it will be a bit harder for you to relate it. But once we'll be like on the practice session, once we'll be like creating the custom report, extracting the data, writing the XSLT, then on a daily basis, when you'll see it, you'll get a clear picture. So right now I was only talking about theoretical sense, so that might get confused for you, but not in the longer sense when we're doing a practice session on a daily basis. But definitely it will be helpful for you, like if you go to those sites and just get a bit idea of XML and XSLT, that will be like in a better situation for you.
Sure.
Right. So I mean, is there any question, any confusion in what we have discussed till now for today?
Yeah, I have one question, Arun. Right?
Yeah, but
I just going through some documents, whatever I had it, and all those things, right? So I read something called report as service.
yeah.
Right? Hold on 1 second, man, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, Arun.
Yeah,
Arun.
yeah, Bala.
Sorry, Arun. Yeah. So there is a concept called report as service. I don't want to jump before everybody, man. Right? That's why I waited for the last moment. So can you? That is what we need to do, right?
So that will be used here, Bala,
Okay.
in a
Okay.
studio. Right, I'll cover that once it's in the studio. The reason being like that EIB is like a internal integration setup which is directly done on the Workday tenant itself. Right, those are automatically in the tenant. So for that you don't need anything as a service for an input to the EIBs, because EIBs are itself in the Workday tenant. But Studio is a third party tool which is like based on the Eclipse. So that is a third party tool. So in that, when you have to like access the report, you have to use it as a service. We will cover it once we'll be in the studio part, but that is always a part when you commit it to the studio section.
Yeah, this is fine, man. This explanation is fine. I got it now. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So any
Arun,
yes.
other than simple and advanced reports, are there any other kind of reports also?
So yeah, I mean, as we were talking on that day as well, there are like transpose reports, and there is matrix report, and there is uh, composite reports. So those these are like few. Then there is espresso reports in Workday system. These are all like you can say for advanced reporting technologies. I mean, these all are like a separate training altogether, and that is a separate domain. So there are HCM consultants, and there are integration consultants, and there are compensation consultants. Similarly, there are reporting consultants as well in the market who are like certified in transpose, matrix, composite, espresso, all these kind of reports. So that is, you can say, a particular subdomain in Workday. When you're applying for jobs, there is a separate job for advanced reporting itself only, where people only know to create these kind of reports.
But
Is
they are
there
not.
a
Okay.
limitation on the?
Sorry.
Most
They
of
are
the
not.
requirements that come from the client, most of the requirements that come from the client, wouldn't that already be handled between simple and advanced?
No, what happens? Okay, let me tell you one thing. So what happens is, like, suppose you're going for an analysis that is in past 5 years. How many people have resigned as a voluntary resignation, as involuntary resignation, then based on like for other company new offers in the companies, or
Arun,
maybe high.
Arun, can I leave, Arun? I need to go. Can I leave it?
Yeah,
Can I leave?
sure, Bala, sure. Yeah, sure,
Okay.
Bala.
See you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Seven.
Yes, you will.
So like suppose in that sense, if you have to do the analysis for like why the attrition happened and what are the particular reasons, so for that you create the composite report or the matrix report, so that it will be like a heading in the under heading. So once I say like voluntary resignation, there will be a number, say 100. Once you click on that a number, there will be another report which will be opening, which will tell, okay, these employees have resigned for this particular reason. So all those things are covered under these matrix, composites, and
Mm-hmm.
transpose reports.
Okay,
Uh,
okay,
I,
okay. So these will go under analytics.
You can say that is more under the analytics part.
Okay, okay.
Arun, if I want to create a report like form type report, salary slip or say expense slip, what
Yeah.
are the types of that reports?
So that is in Workday, it's called the BERT. I don't
But
remember the full form of BERT, but that is what is covered in the BERT part. So that is again a part of Studio that you'll create a report, you'll extract the fields from the report and then put it as an input to Studio. And then you can create a whole template like, okay, this is the heading, then this is the label, field. So all those formatting and everything can be done in the report itself. That is what is called the BERT. Again, that is a part of advanced reporting itself that you create a very customized template or customized format in the Workday system.
okay.
Arun, any of these reports come with any limitation in size?
Not like that.
All
But
right.
they are a bit hard to make. There's like pretty at times I have seen like I have not built these in full swing, but I have built like but I have built few composite and matrix reports in my so far in my 5 or 6 years of working career. I have built around like 10 to 12 birds. For composite and matrix, I have like 3 4 reports built. But majority of the time, it was more like that. I spent more time researching and exploring things to create the report than building it. So the restriction is like even there is no proper guide available by Workday itself on these reports and how to do it. So a lot of research, lot of things and experience comes into the picture when you go for creating these reports. But
Arun,
there's no
is there is
restriction.
uh,
Yeah,
Arun, there is any set of standard reports directly provided by Workday?
that is called espresso reports.
Expression reports.
Yeah. But what I'll do is like I'll give you the overview of all these reports as well in our training, so that you at least
Mhm.
know what is transpose, what is matrix, how it is built. Not complete, I can cover it, but yeah, I'll give you the quick overview of all these reports as well.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, Arun.
Yeah. So I'm hoping like the tenant will be up and you can do the practice. If not, then from tomorrow, as and when you get the tenant, you can do the practice in those terms. But definitely, I'll sit together. If it is not coming up soon, I'll sit together and we'll do the demo for together, and we'll continue on these reports. We'll go a bit slow, Vivek, so that it is easier for you to understand as well. But definitely, we'll wrap this up in our timelines itself.
Actually, I called Asha 24 in afternoon and they updated that it will be up after 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, that's even I got to know before just before this call that is happening in this. So there is some issue with the Workday tenant right because of some maintenance party being done by Workday. So we are just hoping that it gets resolved pretty early. We are in constant terms with them, like constant talk with them, looking at the criteria. But we'll definitely try to get this sorted out as early as possible.
Actually, to completing this
Arun,
assignment, I taken a leave today.
Arun, in this case, doesn't Workday have an SLA or something? If that because they are maintaining the tenant, right?
So typically, I mean, for live data, like all the production gold tenant, they have the SLAs. But for GMS, it's more like that it's a practice tenant, right? It's not gonna make any production data waste or I mean, any company going down. Because this is just available for the partner companies that where you can do the practice and everything. So that's why for this particular tenant, they don't have this SLA kind of thing. But yeah, for other like real life tenant data for customers, they have the SLA.
What is the uptime, Arun, for
So
live server?
So only goes offline on Saturday. That is for 4 hours or 6 hours. I don't exactly remember the time frame. So they only go down for 6 hours on Saturday, that there is no live things going on.
Okay, so I think 95% is uptime.
Yeah, you can say 95 to 98,
Mhm. Okay, okay, Arun.
right?
Yeah.
Thanks then, guys. See you tomorrow. With all the hope, everything works fine and you can do the practice as well. Right?
Right.
Okay,
Thanks,
Arun.
Yeah.
Arun.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Arun.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye
Thank you.
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Bye.
Bye, Anand. Bye, Vivek. Bye.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.
Bye, Sivan.
Bye.
Bye.